How's it going, everyone? Runt9 here. Welcome back to another episode of Runt9 Plays City Skylines. We're still in the city of Pyradian, and we are up to episode number 10. And we're taking a little look around the city right now in cinematic camera mode. Sometimes it shows us interesting things, and sometimes it doesn't. I want to apologize for a lack of video yesterday, which is why you're getting an extra video in the middle of the week today. The grass pollen has been killing me. That happens to be my worst allergy, and I take Allegra for it, and sometimes I take a little bit extra, and even with the little bit extra yesterday, it would have been a whole bunch of me sniffling, which certainly is less than ideal for trying to record any sort of videos. Realistically, I should get ahead of myself and make sure that I have as many good to go as possible. Make sure that I have a decent backlog saved up. So that's kind of what I'm doing today. I expect to record a few videos today. I'm kind of excited about what we're going to be checking out in the city of Pyradian today. But first things first, I did a little bit of building off camera, noticed a couple of things, and have set up for the future. But the first thing I noticed is that while we were off building our area up at the top, we ran into some fire issues down here. Apparently, some of the Move the Mouse fans have invaded my city and decided to bring some of their pyrotechnic ways with us. In case you can't tell, it's called Pyradian, not Pyrodian. If you don't like that pun, then I apologize, because they're only going to get worse from here. So unfortunately, we need to rebuild these, but we need a disaster response unit, and all of that is mildly annoying because realistically, we shouldn't need this when we're not playing with disasters turned on. But for the sake of argument, here is a disaster response unit, and that will eventually search for survivors and allow us to rebuild these buildings in our park area, which is obviously not making us nearly as much money as it used to. Not that money is even remotely a concern. Now, we're also having some worker shortage issues, again, because our residential demand is a little bit high, but we will hopefully be fixing that this episode. So before we take a look up here at kind of what I've been doing a little bit, let's take a look at the couple of things that I touched on. So in the comments, it was brought to my attention that I believe it was this intersection, which I swear I fixed it and now it's broken again. I think probably because I did Control Z on move it a few too many times. Did I have to move it this way? Yeah, there we go. I think I probably hit Control Z on move it a couple times too many. This connection was broken, which meant that the trains coming in from the outside were not able to bring tourists in from this direction, which obviously we want them to be able to do. I actually, while I'm looking at this, apparently this has been updated, which is nice. And it actually has tooltips. Awesome. That's great to see. What does this do? 2 segments, calculate an intersection, add and remove nodes. Net picker, slope smoother. I mean, the slope smoother is what I'm going for here, is I want this to be a little less crazy. That did not particularly help. I think that what I'm probably going to do instead is go into move it and try to fix this up this way, and then probably take I think I'll have to take this node and pull it this way a little bit and probably raise it up a little bit more. We'll go right about there. That should be okay. That looks a little bit smoother. We did break this, of course. So we'll have to do... Oh, come on, stay smoothly sloped. There we go. Gotcha. Don't want to break that connection, so it's a little bit smoother sloped. It kind of falls off pretty hard at the end there. So that was the first thing that I fixed. One other thing was the highway coming this direction did not have an exit onto the service road. So now it goes up to 5 lanes. 1 lane exits here. This joins up. This is a really bad merge. In fact, I'm going to move it a little bit more here just to make that merge suck a little bit less. Try to pull this back slightly just to keep things nice and smooth. I realize that they're going to have to merge down pretty quickly, but we'll see how that goes. We don't have much traffic at the moment. So I added that exit. I also fixed the train line here in our new part of the city, bringing it up on a gentle slope up and over this road. In fact, I do think that we can drag this even further along to make the pillars over the road look a little bit more smooth. That seems fine to me, and then it drops back down on this side. And then I selected the whole map and deleted rocks because if you were watching the last episode and you saw me zoom in, you could tell that pretty much this entire road was just completely covered in rocks and it looked terrible. At some point, I will want to go back and fix up these exits, and I may want to do this in a slightly different way, but it's a little difficult to say exactly what I want to do. Now, for the main purpose of this build, we're going to be building up our new industrial area and our new residential area that begins to deviate from the circular city that we had built up before. So what I did is I went ahead and drew out this 4-lane national highway. And I like the national highways because I don't have to explicitly turn zoning off. They have a good default speed, although with TPME, you can change the speed as much as you want. And it also just looks nice. And the other thing I did is I grabbed a 1-lane one-way, which is a Network Extensions 2 road, and dragged that around here for our cargo train terminal. We will likely need to increase this in the future as the industrial area picks up steam. But for the moment, it should be fine. We need to go ahead and run a water grid up here, which I will probably want to do off camera because it's going to be really slow. But we will go ahead and build everything out right now. I also didn't want to connect this up to the highway because I like building my interchanges on camera because I always freehand my interchanges, and I just think that's part of my charm. Now, it looks like that is connected up fine. So let's go ahead and run our train over here. Allow it to come in and out. We should be able to just go from this node out there. Probably want to do it a little bit further off. And then connect it back up on a nice curve, probably to that node. So that splits off fine. It comes into our cargo train terminal and splits off fine there. And also from this direction, you can split off, come in that way, and go back out. And that gives us our external train connection from off the edges of the map into our cargo train terminal. Now, I also turned off zoning on this because I don't want to have industry actually on this 1-lane one-way. The reason why is I kind of want to keep traffic out of this unless you're going to the train terminal. If you're doing anything else, you shouldn't be using this one-way. Now, I think that if we started having like crazy amounts of traffic in here, people would use this as a bypass, but that's a problem for another day. So let's go ahead and do our free-handed interchange, and it's going to be fairly standard. I don't really mess around too much with my 3-way interchanges, but I also think that there's a potential in the future that it'll become a 4-way interchange as we take this highway across. And so what I may want to do is prepare for that by doing a diverging diamond or a DCIM, something like that. But at least for the moment, we'll just do a simple 3-way interchange. So let's come out about like this, if the game will let me. And probably want to come back one segment to make this a little bit easier to work with. Right about there should be fine, and then we can take one lane out like so. One lane will come up and over 10 meters, get it on a nice smooth slope, and grab our curve tool, come around like so, and start bringing it down and onto the highway. Does that look nice and smooth? Smooth up, smooth over, smooth down. A little bit of a weird curvature at the end, but not too big of a deal. And then we'll obviously do... I'm not going to mess with the merging in TPME. It'll be fine. If it's not, we can always fix it later. We'll grab a 2-lane highway. We'll do the same thing. We'll come down about like that and curve it in. We'll have a simple 1-lane off-ramp from about here. It curves off onto that. And then before the on-ramp here, this one will go at a height of 20. So let's start it down here and go up to 20. Curving it around like so. We want to get it as close as we can so that it becomes easy to grab the curvature around like so. And we want to bring it down like that. Not exactly like that, obviously. We'll want to do something more like that, and then try to straighten that up a little bit. There we go. That gives us a bit more seamless of a curve. And then probably want to... You know, actually I'm okay with that. Simple T interchange. This slopes up and over at an okay rate. Looks fine there, comes on down, and then maybe want to just give that a little bit of a curvature. Yeah, that looks fine to me. And then we'll do 4-lane upgrade here and here, as well as here and here, and here and here. Cool beans. That did throw this off a little bit. Let's try to get that fixed up. Nice smooth slope down. Looks good. That joins up. And then, obviously, you cannot turn left there. You must turn right. You cannot go right back onto the freeway. So that seems good. This is just going to end at probably another little road that just kind of sprawls into the suburban area. So I want to build out the industrial section first, because I think this is going to be what's more interesting. I do like the way that this interchange turned out. Looks fine, it's nice and simple, and it'll be easy to delete and replace with a four-way interchange down the road when necessary. What I want to do for the industry is probably want to do 2-lane one-way roads, but I'm not 100% sold on that. I think that one of the thoughts I've had is doing 3-lane asymmetrical roads, but I don't remember if I can do what I'm thinking. So I'm actually going to try this real quick. And what I'm thinking is having a lane that goes the other direction purely for emergency vehicles. Clear traffic, priority stops, junction, speed, vehicle restrictions here. So I can control what can go in each lane. So what I'm going to do, and this is going to take a moment, this is definitely something I'll do off camera, and I want to make sure that I have this noted down, so I'm certainly going to write this down so that I don't forget. We're going to make sure that we do water and power for this new section, and I'm going to emergency vehicle only on 3 lane. And that way I have a note to make sure off camera to go back in, and I'll do it on like one road segment just to kind of show you guys what I'm thinking. But basically, one of the problems I have with the main way that I like to do industry loops is you end up in a situation where, and I'll kind of show you an example here, because I'll go out like this, do a gentle curve out and around, basically just kind of following the highway here so that we get tons of zoning. And I think that we're going to want to smooth this out a bit. Come on, give me my smoother curve. There we go. Probably want to bring those in a little bit as well. So let's just grab these nodes. Probably to about there, and bring them in slightly. That should clear up the zoning. For the most part, we'll still have a few issues, but I'm okay with the way that turned out. We're going to want to do it about right there, and then clean this section up back here, clean this up, make it a nice steady curve, make that a nice steady curve. There we go. I'm happy with that. We've got a little bit of elevation back here, which is also okay with me. But the problem with only doing 2-lane, one-way roads is, and obviously, you know, you have a bunch of cross streets in here and whatnot. Basically, I would flow from right to left. So something like you'd have a block basically as dense as possible. So about like that, and then you would do another block where you have perfect overlapping. Something about like that. Well, what happens is, say I need fire coverage. Well, okay, now I'll probably need a fire station, or a big fire station. So it can barely make it all the way across that loop. And so you kind of have to barely try to sneak it in right there, and it's just, it doesn't quite work. And this may not be the biggest issue in the world, but my thought was, if I make all of these 3-lane asymmetrical roads, doing it where the 2-lane one-way goes in favor of, oh, I did not mean to do that. Let's grab net picker, grab this, upgrade that, and then go back into our roads and continue upgrading, which we had done down to about right there. Nope, not that one. Net picker, give us that. And then we'll upgrade these that go along here. Now, you could also argue that it may not be a bad idea for trucks to be able to use the other side of the street as well. In fact, they probably have to, considering the zoning. Again, I haven't necessarily tried this before, but my thought process on this was, this lane that comes back the other direction. Nope, not that. If we ban everything other than emergency vehicles, then only emergency vehicles can come back this way. And I can apply that across the entire road. And if we do the same thing on this one, everything other than emergency vehicles. Now, when I go to place this guy, he can hit every single part of this little section without even really trying. And so I can plop these down, and now we've got the full coverage that we need out here without having to worry about it too much. So again, I don't know if it'll work exactly the way that I thought it would with the zoning being on both sides of the street. So we may just have to rethink all of that. But at least for the moment, I'm going to try to zone off the rest of this. Again, trying to get the zoning edges about as perfect as I can. And we've got a little bit of elevation here, so I realize that complicates things a little bit down here. But I'm okay with the way that looks. And we'll start with this. We'll need to grow the industry as time goes by. We've got obviously a ton of room to do so down here. And again, we can extend this out over here to grow the industry more on that side of the highway as well. But basically, let me first zone off this middle street with commercial. Mostly because I think that it makes perfect sense for there to be a commercial district along, or not district in the game terms, but basically have commercial zoning along the service road in between the industrial and residential areas. We'll do a big marquee tool there. So we have a ton of industry, and I will go in and dezone this off camera as well and let that start getting cleaned up so that eventually we can turn this into a residential area. And what else are we going to do on this video? Well, like I said, we're going to build out a residential area over here as well. And we'll have to figure out the public transit. I do think that we're going to want some metro into downtown. Trams are not going to be a bad idea, especially if we want to throw some, high-rise band offices down here. But I think this is going to just be a suburban center. And probably what we're going to want to do is run maybe the green line is a bit lengthy already. So we could just run a line that goes right down the center of this service road into the city center and just stop there. Don't even run it down to the southern portion, but run this all the way down. And we could potentially, because we have the train, use the train for commuter traffic as well. And that also brings up a fairly compelling argument for taking this loop and bringing it out onto this part of town. The question is, if we go that route, train station does fit in underneath the highway down here. It might be a little bit difficult trying to squeeze the train tracks in here, but maybe this is the better route to go. We can drop a train station right here, and that'll carry a ton of passengers, and this will just kind of be an end of the line. Maybe we can just kind of run this right along here and find a way to hook it back up into the train network, potentially right at that station, and just have this be a new line. I would say if we can, try to squeeze this station in right here. Those may be a little too close together, but I don't think that will be a problem. And we can try to run this just along the outside of our commercial area. And I'm just kind of keeping things at the 5-meter height that it already has it at. Not that that's necessarily going to work for getting over this part of the road, but give me straight tool. Again, trying not to mess with my zoning, and I think it's just giving me too many problems. I'm going to turn off angle snapping. Curve that like so, and then give me a straight tool that goes up to a height of 10 meters there, goes across, and then we're gonna either need to snake it on the other side of the highway, or dive underneath. Let's start from here and figure out what our best course of action is going to be. How high can we get with a reasonable slope? We can get to 20, which is not quite enough to clear that. Let's see, how high can we go? 24. 24 does clear it. We can go back down to 20 there. So with that, I'm actually going to take that node and lower it down to smooth that out a bit. That is at 10. So how about if we're going to need to make this climb anyways, let's just smooth this all out such that you just make one continuous climb. In fact, does the slope smoother work on trains? Because if so, that would be fantastic. That seems smooth enough. This is kind of a scary slope up ramp. I mean, like I said, the ramps kind of need to be fixed for multiple different reasons as it sits. We'll deal with that another day. We probably do want to give the ability for this to probably T intersection with this so tourists can come in and out. I don't think that's going to be as big of a deal, but tying into this outside line is probably a smart idea. As for trains being able to bypass the stations, I don't think that I care about that in this particular case. Can we get this up onto here? Yes, we can. All right, so let's bring this up and over like so. And I do think we're going to do from here onto... I kind of ran that directly into the pole of the highway. Not exactly what I was shooting for there. You're going to tell me slope too steep? Are you sure about that? You know, this being dug into the ground is kind of an issue for me. Not a huge fan of what happened here. Let's just get this back up where it's supposed to be. Run it under here. Get our elevation up so that we can clear this road. Okay, knocking out that office building. And now we're good to snake under the highways here. Yes, we're gonna have a hard time tying into that rail line down there, however, I would guess. Okay, lots and lots of pillars and stuff. I believe we need to come down on height. Let's get back down to ground level. That is smooth enough for my taste. And we need to hook in such a way that we can use that station, which is going to be problematic because if we do it that way, they can't turn right. So we need to go the other direction around these poles. And so this is something else. Basically, I'm trying to get better about what should be done on or off camera. I think this is something that I probably should have just done off camera because it was something that I kind of had a spur of the moment idea and wanted to see what it would look like. And now I'm kind of paying the price by running this episode over the time that I would usually try to go. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm sure you guys appreciate the extra content, but I do want to make sure that I can get through at least a couple of videos today. And now we'll need to see if we can hook this up like so, which I think is going to work perfectly. And so this will be our main, I guess, transit to get you down here. So it'll drop you off at this station, which then you can take the metro into town, or you can take the commuter train loop as necessary. And I will say that it would be nice to tie into the external line, but I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Maybe I will find a way to do that off camera. We'll just tie in those 3 stations into a new line, and that will handle our suburban traffic. So this is probably a good place to stop for this episode. Like I said, I've got some stuff to do off camera. I think I will probably tie into the external train route there. Just noting that down. I think this is a great start for our new industry section. We can get this dezoned and fill that in with residential once it gets cleaned up. Our poop area seems to be getting cleared up quite nicely, which is fantastic. That means that we'll be able to start building out onto the beach here pretty soon. And once this project is finished up, which I think will be an episode 11 kind of deal, we'll be able to bring this highway down here and finally, after so many episodes of talking about it, do our tourism island, which I'm obviously super excited about. But I think this is where I'm going to cut the video off for now. We'll hit a little bit of cinematic camera here while I do my outro. So thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support and everyone who's been following the channel. Likes and comments are a great way to help out, and you can subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. You can also join the community Discord if you'd like to connect with me directly. If you'd like to donate to my channel, there's a Patreon link in the description. Otherwise, I hope that you all enjoyed this episode as much as I did creating it, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.